Hello friends, in this lesson we will learn how to use and customize the airbrushes. Again I am working with a new file. Like natural bristle brushes, airbrushes are also OpenGL enabled. Let's find them. These are right here. These nozzle kind of brushes are the airbrushes. Let's switch our view to a large list. Now, if you are familiar with how a traditional airbrush works, you must be knowing that it actually works with watercolors. So, most of these brushes are going to use a watercolor effect. Let's take a look at this first one, watercolor build-up. Again, we get a live brush tip preview. In this preview, it can be seen that instead of painting with a brush, the paint is coming out of the airbrush. Let's try a stroke. I'll have to press a bit lighter to get a full stroke. Like so. The lighter we press, fuller stroke we get, and harder we press like this, we get a thinner stroke. Now we can create a cool effect by the way we end our stroke. You should try yourself and explore some options. Let's zoom in a bit. Now this paint has some nice characteristics of a watercolor paint. The watercolors actually have some sediments in their paint, and as it builds up on a paper or a canvas, we can see this type of effect. This paintbrush mimics that speckled pattern of actual watercolor. Let's zoom out and have a look at couple of these brushes. Let's see this watercolor wash. Let's change the color, maybe to a lighter green. Let's paint. This one paints a washed out kind of effect with these speckled patterns. Now let's see some salt based airbrushes. It is a common practice to add salt after something has been painted with watercolor and is still wet, because salt absorbs some of the water and creates some kinds of speckled pattern. Let's see this watercolor salt paint. Select a different color and start painting. Like so. Let's zoom in. It looks very close to what a watercolor looks when some salt has been added to it while it is still wet. Let's see another one, salty watercolor, and take another color. This will give another type of effect, like so. Next we want to talk about these density grainy brushes. If you know about the traditional airbrushes, one has to be very careful about the angle of the brush while painting, because the paint has a tendency to spread. If we grab this first one and take yet another different color, we can see this misty kind of effect. Now different density grainy brushes have different effects. If we select this one, yet another color, the effect of this one is different from this one. I find them really interesting. Let's now see the brush dynamics for the airbrushes. Let's again select a different color. Hit F5 and let's look at the brush tip shape. You can see in this preview the hardness effect, the distortion effect, the granularity. Lesser the value, lesser the granules, and more the value, more the granules. Spatter size. This is the size of the granules. This is the amount of the granules. Very interesting. I'll hit Control Backspace. Now there are a few new dynamics which I want to tell you about. They have quite a bit to affect these airbrushes. First one is this build up. Let's take a brush, say watercolor build up. I have not yet checked it on. Let's paint a stroke. I painted a stroke and I am still holding my stylus, but the paint has stopped. It is not coming out of the airbrush. If I move my stylus again, the paint comes out. Now let's check this on and see the effect. Now if I paint and hold there, you can see it is building up. The paint is still coming out of the airbrush. Another one I want to tell you about is this brush pose. Let's select another color. Now this brush pose is a fancy way of giving a tilt to our brush. What this does is overrides the tilt of our stylus. If we check it on and see, it has some boxes to say override the tilt X, override the tilt Y, override the tilt rotation. We can override any action of our stylus. Brush pose will control the tilt of the brush according to its values. Like so. You can see here the amount of tilt. I encourage you to explore and experiment with them a little bit on your own. That's all for this lesson, friends. See you in the next lesson.